Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Matt, and if you've been following along, you'll know over the last few months I've been kind of fixing up this old skid steer that I got for $4,500. And now the time has finally come to put it to work. Now this video is going to have a lot of random stuff in it, a little bit of work around the property here, a little bit of maintenance, a little bit of just fixing small stuff that I come across. So let's get right to it. The first thing I want to do is I bought this brand new bucket over here. Let's get this thing hooked up and try it out. So this is the bucket I picked out. I bought this thing on I think it was Black Friday. So I've had it for a while. I've had it moving around a couple times because it's been in the way. So this is it's made by a company called Quick Attach, made here in the USA. It's a 4-in-1. It's still pretty clean for how long it's been sitting out here. This was my old fan belt. We'll get that out of here. It is pretty heavy. I want to say it's like 700 or 800 pounds, so hopefully it's not too much for the machine. If it is, I can always get a new machine. Let's see if this still starts here. Oh, wrong button. Oh! Give it a little more glow plug. We'll let that warm up. This engine's pretty cold-blooded, so it takes a little bit to warm up, but that was a really nice start. It started right up. In. I think I see the first problem. It's a little bit bent. Get up. So probably break the connector. These things are probably frozen up. Nope, that one's stuck. Gotta break this free. There we go. Oh, that thing is a little bit tight. Oh man. There we go. Come on. But the problem is this little lock's not coming over. All right, I guess we just might as well redo this whole thing. Ow. That was a knuckle breaker. That got my finger real good. Ouch. Oh, this thing's so bent, it's let me bend this a little bit more, hold on. Okay. Should I even bother with this one, or should I just get a new one? There we go. That, and then maybe out a little bit. Okay. My goodness. So one thing I've learned over the years is if you're planning on doing a repair and you start getting into it and it's taken way longer than you expected, it's best to just stop and look up how much it costs to just replace the item instead of repairing it. It's actually very cheap just to replace both of these fittings, so that's what I'm going to do. But in the meantime, I'm going to put this back on here just so it's not leaking all over, and we can proceed to the next step of our repairs. I gotta be honest, when I jumped out of this thing, my sixth or maybe even my seventh sense was telling me that I was in danger. So I think what you're supposed to do, and I haven't read the manual, but I'm assuming this is like some kind of safety thing. You pull this out. Well, it's not quite high enough, but I'm guessing is, oh, Charlie, you don't stand right there. I think when you go high enough, it clicks into place if you release this pin, and then you can get out without it getting smashed. The reason I'm making a big deal out of this is this bucket weighs 800 pounds, and I haven't lifted anything near this heavy with this machine. And you know, some of these lines, who knows how old they are, they could be breaking. This is a huge load on it after sitting for a long time. So I feel like you should be able to float this. Maybe if you turn it parking brake off. There we go. Now we're safe. Get this elephant out of here. That took a long time to wash, and there was a ton of grease on this thing. In fact, there's still a lot of grease on it, but it's good enough. So I've done both sides. I'm gonna have to start it and move it to get this one right here. The bucket came pretty well greased, so I'm gonna probably use it for a couple hours and then I'll re-grease it. Okay, that's leaking. Hopefully this is the right size. So this should be a ORFS 10 bulkhead fitting, which looks like it's right. So then this has to go on. There we go. O-ring still on. It is a -10. Well, this one's got little grooves in the nut, so it holds on to this. Why didn't they do that for that one? A little bit of schmoo in here. The real question is how we're going to route these super long hoses where they don't get messed up. That's what's supposed to happen. Just all right. How easy that was. Let's see. I mean, I get why they're long, but by the way, the glow plug relay is 100% going bad in this thing. I have a new one coming in a couple days, but it worked that time. Oh, it's coming up. All right. Forgot about that. I think it's slow. All right. The delay on the aux is really weird. Watch this. Hey, watch this. Hey, let go. Still moves. It like moves for about a third of a second after you're done touching it. Very laggy. It's kind of weird. I guess because it's electronically controlled. All right, well, that's enough complaining for now. This thing's pretty fast. I'm going to patch up these potholes really quickly, which probably don't show up too well, but the correct way to do it would be to tear it all up with a box blade or a ripper or something. But I think it's been raining so much, I think if I just do a couple of 360s here, it'll tear it up enough where it'll accept new gravel and pack down. right there, that's nice. Bucket is nice. That turned out okay for doing it at night. Really my only experience spreading gravel has been with a tractor, which is where you can't see anything that's going on. Ooh, kind of a low spot right there. So this was a nice change. Okay, on to the next project. So this is actually my neighbor's property here. She's a nice older retired lady and doesn't really do farming stuff or animal stuff anymore. So she doesn't use the space, and she's been offering me for a while to park my travel trailer in here. So I'm gonna take her up on it. I'm gonna get all this waste wood out of here and burn it. Get the garbage out of here. This is all my stuff. If you can't tell, it's an excavator cap. And we'll try to bring the skid steer in here without knocking anything down and scoop out. A lot of this stuff is just, it's no good for parking anything on. Hey, there's the crate for my Rolls Royce. Birds in here. So just kind of clean it out a little bit and then spread some gravel. Is that a rat or a cat? So it's a little bit of work. But it would be nice, this stuff's so loose. So I'd like to kind of dig all this out and then put a couple inches of gravel in. And then this entrance is kind of, it's hard to tell on camera, but it's just all lumpy. It's a mess. So let's do what we can, I guess. Just throw it in there. Up there. You up there? All right, child is up there. He's safe. Charlie's not out. Should have seen that coming. it's really kind of dug out in the middle, but it's really high on either side. I'm not quite sure what's going on in here. You can see the land here. And then it slopes way up in the back, but this is like someone just dumped a bunch of sawdust here, because this stuff's all buried. These stairs, you got another step there, at least one more. This appears to be a buried cooler, which is a little frightening. Probably won't open that later. So I'd like to pull some of this back and then get rid of it. I was kind of pushing all this stuff forward, uncovered something here. I'm not sure what it is yet. It's at first I thought it was like a septic tank. It's full of water, goes pretty deep. This is steel right here, but it's really thick steel, and I didn't break anything off. Like there's no fresh marks on it. You can see how deep it goes, which is way below the foundation for this garage. I don't know if I probably don't want to mess with it, but I'm also worried about, if I try to cover it up and then that's like perfect foot size. If someone's foot slipped in there. It's pretty long too. I think it only goes that far forward, but it comes back all the way over to here. My neighbor just doesn't care. She said cover it up, whatever, but how far over does it go? See, I don't want to like drive a truck right here and have it collapse, Okay, so I have maybe 3-4 hours so far on this machine, and it's been great so far. No problems. The engine's definitely breaking in more. It's sounding a lot better, and this machine's just been operating really nicely so far. One thing that's quickly becoming clear though is I need to put a backup camera on it. I have 3 children. I have Charlie, and it's just hard to keep track of everybody. And every time I have to stop and look around, it just slows me way down. Now I've already been over the machine, and I found right here there was a receptacle, a powered 12-volt receptacle running off of key power. I think it was for maybe a plug-in for a light or something, or some accessory. But I removed the receptacle and I just put a grommet here. So I'm gonna go ahead and run the wires for everything. I'm just gonna run it all off that same 12 volts, and then we'll hook it up and try it out. Well, it ain't exactly pretty, but it beats running over a kid, I guess. There was no space to mount it upside down or against that wall right there. There just wasn't enough space to get the camera. And it's got this huge antenna on it. So really the only other option, if you wanted to be really trick, is you could cut a hole right here, and there was space behind it to mount it, but I'm not gonna do that. Up here sitting in the cab, really no space to mount it because you got to see all that. So this was the only spot I could put it. You can still make out the fuel gauge there. And then the wiring just goes in there, and then it goes around back. And then it's all hooked in right there. Not the best, but it'll work. So let's try this out. And this is just going to be on all the time. So that's a pretty decent view. Basically, you have to be, sorry about the beeping, you have to be about 2 feet behind it, like within 2 feet, and then like you have to be less than about 3 feet tall for me not to see you in that camera, which is, that'll work. I also fixed this front light, so I got 2 lights up here again. That'll be nice. By the way, I also need to mention that I'm an idiot for these aux hoses. There's a loop on this arm right here, which I was looking at, and I didn't put 2 and 2 together that the hoses are supposed to route through there. Otherwise, they get pinched if you tilt the bucket. So I got those routed through there now. They still stick out in the front, but it's really not a problem. It was only an issue when I was loading a lot of wood on. Okay, I've uncovered a little bit more. You can see the front end right there. Here's the other side, and it's got like a little hole in it. So I think this is like an old oil tank that someone just threw here and then covered up. But it is really rusted and pretty thin steel. Originally I thought it was thicker, but this is maybe this. I don't think this was me, but it's been hit and then curled in. That's why this is thick and this is really thin. This thing is below the level of the foundation of that, so I don't really want to pull this out. It could compromise something. I think the safest thing to do is just fill it full of dirt and let it be. So I'm going to go ahead and pack as much dirt in there as I can. Pretty decent pile going here. The last load I had a lot of dirt, so I dumped it right here because this was all torn up from the tires ripping through this. It's about 50-50 dirt and sawdust. Probably have about, I don't know, 5 to 6 yards here. Maybe a little bit more. I also dumped a little bit right here just because there's a kind of a sinkhole right here that, of course, sawdust isn't really going to help that too much, but I just dumped a bunch here. All in all, I moved about maybe, I would say, 10 yards worth of material, mostly sawdust. Got it pretty flat in here, actually. Not bad for my first real job with the machine. So basically, most of this dirt was already in here. It was really bumpy though, so I kind of flattened it out. And then the dirt floor kind of slopes up into these stairs. But I cut into it a little bit, and just to kind of flatten it out a little bit more. There's still a ton of sawdust back in here, but short of digging it out with a shovel, there's really no point to do that either. I mean, she's not using this area. She's not gonna use this area. So might as well just leave it as is. It's way flatter than it was. It's actually quite flat in here. So I think I'm ready to put gravel in, probably just 2-3 inches of gravel. It really doesn't get wet in here. Like, this sawdust was all pretty dry, but the dirt, you can see where I scraped the dirt, it's pretty moist underneath. Some gravel should help out in keeping the trailer tires from rotting and sinking in and all that kind of stuff. A lot of spots over here against this foundation, there was ground squirrels getting in, but I just shoved in, I tried to pull back the bark dust, and then I put fill dirt in over it, and then bark dust back on top. So hopefully that's not a problem. And then this thing is still oozing water. So I packed it in here. This is the hole I cut. That's all packed in, and then that pushed all the water out. So that's gonna be messy for a while, that's okay. But before I put gravel in, I finally got a new relay in for the glow plugs. And I know in this video, I had a couple starts that I filmed where it started right up. The relay has since completely gone out. So what I've been doing is I just run a wire over, jumper it, and then start it, and then run back and flip it off. But hopefully this relay will work. Yeah, that's the same. So this one will probably last about 2 weeks, but better than nothing. All right, let's try out these glow plugs. Oh yeah. What an improvement. guess we'll call this good probably. So much smoother coming in now. There used to be a huge bump and indent there. And yeah, I don't know how deep it is. Well, that's actually probably too deep. That's at least 3 inches. And probably, how much? Yeah, I used quite a bit of gravel. That's okay though. I can only imagine trying to do this with my tractor. It would have taken me 2 to 3 times as long. I probably would have been running into stuff. Since that tractor is direct drive, you've got to put the clutch in and out every time you reverse directions. It's just very slow and painful. So this was a treat. Okay, last job here before I put the trailer in. So my neighbor's uses a walker to get out here. You can see the tracks. And it's always very slippery here in the when it rains right in this area. So I'm going to put some gravel here. She occasionally pulls her tractor in, where you can see the tire tracks from it. So we're going to gravel up this little hill here for her, so her tractor doesn't get stuck in the mud. And then we'll dump a bunch right up here. Like, we already got it pretty dirty in here just from this one little job. Wood shavings will be nice for starting a fire. A little bit steep up this hill. There, it'll tip over. I just learned the hard way. You don't want to float the blade as you're going backwards down a hill, because basically front arms kept just pushing down more and more, and then the body was tipping more and more back. And it was kind of it felt like it was flipping itself over. It probably wasn't, but it didn't feel good. That's high. Let's make sure that's gonna fit. Well, that air conditioning unit's gonna hit unless it drops down here in a second. I think it might clear. Pretty close. Oh, all right, that's plenty of room. is actually a pretty good fit for it. Got a nice walkway around all the sides. A little bit dark right here, but yeah, I mean, that's about as far back as you could go. But yeah, I don't know. It's so weird with how it sits in here with all the junk on either side of the gravel. It feels a little bit like a waste of gravel. What did I use? I probably used maybe four yards of gravel, and I'm spending about $40 a yard delivered. So 160 bucks, 150, 60 bucks. I guess that's fine. I mean, this will probably be here for about a year before I get the garage built, if that. And this tank is still not quite full, so I need to add a little bit more dirt into that, but it's safer than it was, I guess. Or maybe it's less safe since I cut a hole in it. Okay, well, we're done with the gravel for this video. Let's put this bucket to the test though, because I got some logs to move. Let's see if I can do it with the bucket or if I need to switch over to the forks. This glow plug has helped a lot. Every time. All right. Charlie. Oh wait, he's right there. Is this big enough to grab a log? Side or something. It's kind of a weird one. Aha! Look at that. That's a big log. Sprinkler heads. Set that down. Look at that. Oh. I'm gonna have to do something about the roof here. Basically, the arm is coming up and hitting right there. It's hitting on the hydraulic line, which is not good. Right down in there, you can even see it's dented from scraping against it. So definitely need to fix that as soon as possible. Up on top, they just have this plate welded over it. It's actually only welded like here, and then this is sealant, and then it's welded right here. I think this is part of whatever they put on there. I'm not sure how much I'll be able to do. This isn't super thick, but I don't want to heat it up too much because there's a bunch of electronics in there and over here, so I got to be a little bit careful. But let's do what we can. There we go. Not too bad. Yep. This is going to be nice to have a sunroof in here, except if it rains, which it doesn't rain much around here. This metal is actually pretty thin. I think this is kind of one of the things where the more time you spend with it, the better it'll look. I don't know how much time I want to spend with it though. We got some razor sharp corners here though. Let's get those off real quick. Just a little bit there. Do small steps. I think I'm definitely gonna have to torch this corner. Yeah, the wind's kicking up, that's nice. Yeah, this is going to be tough because there's actually a panel underneath that's bolted to the plastic of like the top console. So I can't use heat right here. In fact, I don't know if heat's going to work anywhere. I might just have to hit on this for a while. I don't know. I borrowed this from the old engine hoist. I think this will work though. Assuming it doesn't fly out of here. Oh yeah. I wouldn't say I'm surprised that happened. Now I'm all gun shy. It's about to slip out of there, I think. Can bend this back a little bit. Actually, before I go any further, let me hop in here and see if it's no longer hitting. I suspect it's not. Right there is where you want to be looking. Glow plug's working, let's see. Should only take about 5 seconds. This is a brand new engine, brand new injection pump. Yep. Let that warm up for a sec. Okay, well functionally it's okay. I'm just gonna mess around with it for another few minutes here, and then I'll catch up with you after that. All right. I think this is as good as I could get it last night. I kind of dusted it with some paint just so it wouldn't rust, the bare metal. Yeah, it still looks pretty rough, but it's better than it was, and it's not hitting the bucket anymore. So like I said, you can't really do much more unless you took it off and heated it up, or maybe you could weld some pieces to it and hammer on it some more. I don't know. It's good enough for now. It's good enough for what we're doing. I wonder if it's okay to remove this tag now. By the way, this bucket is awesome. I really like it. This thing is so overbuilt too. You got 3-inch cylinders on it, which I think are bigger than the tilt and the arm cylinders on this machine. And then you look how thick the steel is. I mean, what is this? Yeah, this is 1/2 inch thick steel. I've looked at the cheap ones that are like all over the auction yards from China. Those are like 1/4 inch. So this bucket should hopefully last me forever. The only way I could see getting rid of it, I mean, this is just the 72-inch or the 6-foot version. So if I ever ended up going to a bigger machine, which I really don't think I need, that's probably what, I'd get a bigger bucket maybe, but this thing has been really awesome so far. Okay, last thing to do in this video is to check the drive chain tension and change the drive chain oil. So let's check the tension real quick. This thing's been starting so much easier. We'll give it 5 seconds. Every time, and you got to give it some more glow plug just so for a second till it warms up, but that new relay has really changed things. The spec in the manual says this should not rotate more than 15 millimeters, which is about 1/2 inch. That's actually seems about right. Let me get the 15. Oh, you're just in time, Charlie. And we're going to do a very scientific measurement here. Yeah, we're about half that. Well within that. So let's see here. Let me see if I can get an actual measurement. We're at about 7 millimeters on this wheel. Let's try the other one. Yeah, we're back exactly the same on this one. Plenty of room under here. I gotta use this. It's not super helpful, dog. Need something, dog? All right, loose. I think it only holds, if I recall, 1.5 gallons. Is this magnetic? Oh yeah. There's a little bit of metal on there. Okay, a lot. Oh, dog. Did I just get that on your ear? This fluid looks a little dirty. And now it's spilling out over the side. I would think a little bit of metal would be okay. Because, I mean, it is just a chain with a sprocket, so there's probably some wear over time. As long as it's adjusted right and there's no crazy stress on the drive motors, like the bearings on those, then I think we'll be okay. So might as well we'll just go as is, not worry about it until there's a problem. I mean, it's only 1.5 gallons. Maybe when I change the engine oil, I'll change this oil again, because it did look pretty dirty. That'll help flush it out. And then we'll just check to see again if there's any metal in it. This fill plug's kind of full up. What? Who's there? Oh. Oh. What are you doing? What's going on back there? Oh, there's a rock in there. I hear it. I feel it. Oh, we got a hornet's nest right here. It's right underneath there. All right. Crisis averted. All right, so a little bit less metal on this one than the other one, but there's still some. I feel like even amounts of metal would be better than like one has a ton and none. The other one has none. This is like a brand new 8 amp hour battery, and this thing is crapping out. I don't even know. There it goes. Let's try it in bolt mode. Metal on there. You kind of expect it because it was on the other plug too. Actually, there's a little bit more than a little bit now that I see it. And we're just doing engine oil. I just have a bunch of leftover oil cans that I'm pulling out of, and I don't even know, this might not even be the good stuff. This might just be dumpage. It's kind of in my junk oil pile. I had to change pumps. Yep, we're there. Well, because we're at the end of the project, I figured it'd be a good time now to kind of go over as a summary what I paid for everything, things I've learned about this since I'm a completely new operator to skid steer. So overall, I really like this machine. It's such a huge upgrade over the tractor. In fact, I've been kind of kicking myself that I didn't buy one of these when I first moved out here 10 years ago, because it would have been so helpful. Just thinking back on all the work I've done with the tractor, it's just so painful dealing with a clutch and all that kind of stuff. You know, lifting and moving things, not being able to see what's in the bucket as easily as on this. The one thing I don't like about it is the high ground pressure. It leaves divots everywhere it goes. I drove it through my lawn a couple times and there's just huge indents of where it drove. Now I would assume on a compact track loader, which is probably why they're so popular, but I'm guessing the ground pressure is a lot lower on those and they do a lot less damage. Although when you turn, I don't know, maybe it's a wash either way. On this, if you're a little bit careful on the turning, you don't do sharp turns, it won't rip it up too much, but just the weight of the machine is, you know, on 4 wheels, so that's kind of a problem. Now, so far the engine runs really cool. I used it for multiple hours, you know, constant work, and it was not getting hot. The output hose on the radiator was not even that hot to the touch. So that's a really good sign. You never know when you do a new engine with a different radiator and all that kind of stuff. Once again, a big thank you to Area Diesel for setting up that injection pump for me, because the RPMs are great. This thing is actually quite fast when you spin it up all the way. I'm kind of just taking notes here. So while I'm on the subject of the engine, I have a grand total of 5 hours now on this machine with the new engine in it. So probably maybe another 15 or so hours, and then I'll change the oil, get the braking oil out of there. Really happy with this bucket. I was kind of worried it was going to be too big and heavy, but it's actually really nice for this machine. It's really well sized. The machine doesn't have a problem lifting it with a full load of gravel, and there's really no problems at all. This is a great bucket. I'm really happy I bought it. All right, so we'll get to the total cost here. So for this machine, I spent $4,500 on it. It was $400 to have it delivered here, which I think you saw in the first video. For the engine core, the machining, and the parts, it was $4,600. And then I just guessed, I didn't really track it too well, but I guessed $500 for just miscellaneous parts. I think the most expensive thing I bought was the new coupler between the pump and the engine, and then just a lot of nickel and dime stuff. So we'll save $500 for that. Tires, $950. You can get tires for way cheaper off Amazon, but I don't know how long those would last. So hopefully these last me for a while. So that brings the total to $10,950, plus or minus, you know, a couple $100. So in my opinion, that seems like a pretty decent price. I mean, I've had my eye kind of on the market for a few years now for these machines. And for a wheeled machine, that's 3,000 hours, a modern machine, you're talking probably about 15,000, you know, maybe with a cheaper bucket. But yeah, you know, I think I did okay on this one. I also kind of lucked out because this machine, besides being really dirty, I think it was actually maintained pretty well. The joints are all really tight. There's no slop in anything, and just everything I've done so far has shown that they've done at least routine maintenance, kept everything greased, that kind of thing. So hopefully this machine does last me for a while. I think I am going to keep it. I'll probably eventually paint it. I was kind of kicking myself because right after I bought this, like 2 or 3 weeks after I bought this thing, someone sent me an ad for Facebook, like really close by, a guy that was selling a Caterpillar track skid steer with a blown up engine, and I think it was for $6,000. So for $1,500 more, I could have had a track machine, which would have been an upgrade, but it is what it is. So anyway, that's it for this machine. You're gonna see it a lot on the channel, I'm sure. Anytime I move something heavy, I mean, this is gonna be my go-to. So hopefully this was a lot of fun to watch. It was a lot of fun to do. I always like projects like this where you kind of have to improvise and make stuff work. The challenge is part of the fun. So anyways, guys, if you made it this far into the video, I appreciate you watching, and I will catch you on the next one, which I promise is gonna be an excavator video. I'm already halfway through it.